Somewhere between the click of the lamp and the first full breath, the room changes. The walls do not disappear. The furniture does not move. But the version of you that was performing a few seconds ago steps back, and something quieter takes its place. If that moment sounds like relief, you already know the feeling. If it sounds like fear, stay with me, because the same darkness is doing two very different jobs in two different minds. The word for a deep affection for darkness is nyctophilia. It is not a diagnosis. It is not a symptom. For many people it is a private preference, almost a love affair with the one part of the day that asks nothing. And the surprising part is that this love is rarely about wanting to disappear. It is usually about wanting to stop performing. Think of the last time you walked into a room after a long day and did not turn on the light. Maybe you dropped your keys, leaned against the door and stood there in the blue-gray quiet. The phone was still buzzing in your pocket. The list of tasks was still running behind your eyes. But with the light off, the room stopped adding new items. That is the first mechanism, and it is simpler than it sounds. Your brain is not a machine that thinks more when there is more to see. It is a machine that must constantly sort what matters from what does not. Brightness is not neutral. It is full of edges, labels, faces, and reminders. Darkness subtracts. And subtraction, when you are exhausted, feels like kindness. But here is the part most people get wrong. We assume that loving darkness means loving nothingness. In fact, darkness is rarely empty for the people who love it. Close your eyes in a dark room and you may notice the room is still full. Your breathing, the pressure of the floor, a distant car, the hum of the refrigerator. What is missing is the visual noise, the layer of the world that demands your eyes. And the eyes are greedy. Visual processing uses a startling amount of brain power. When the light falls away, that processing load drops. The mind, for once, is not scanning for movement, color, or danger in every corner. It can turn inward. That inward turn is often mistaken for sadness. But for many people, it is the first time all day they have heard themselves think. Let me give you a small concrete example. Imagine two versions of the same room. In the first version, a bright overhead light is on, the screen is awake, a pile of papers sits in the corner, and your reflection in the window makes you aware of your own face. In the second version, the same room is lit only by the faint glow from under the door. Same floor, same couch, same papers. But your attention in the first room is pulled outward, toward each object, each task, each possible demand. In the second room, the number of things demanding a response drops to almost none. Your attention is no longer divided. That is a real shift, not just a poetic one. Researchers studying attention and environment find that when visual input decreases, our cognitive load decreases too. It is not that darkness makes you less intelligent or less capable. It is that darkness gives your brain fewer tabs to keep open. Of course, this raises a question. If darkness lowers the load, why do so many people feel terror in the same dim room? The answer tells us something important. Darkness does not create fear out of nowhere. It removes information. And when information is removed, the brain fills the gap with whatever it already expects. If you feel safe in your body and in your space, the gap fills with calm, memory, or imagination. If you feel unsafe, the gap fills with threat. So the same black curtain can be a blanket or a blindfold. The difference is not the darkness. It is what you bring to it. That is why one person turns off the lights to rest, and another keeps a nightlight on. Neither is weak. Both brains are doing exactly what brains evolved to do, trying to predict what comes next. Here is another shift, and it may be the deepest one. Modern life has reversed an ancient rhythm. For most of human history, the dark was not a blank at the end of the day. It was a different kind of room. After sunset, work stopped. The bright, task-driven part of the day ended. People gathered near firelight, faces softened, voices lowered. Stories were told. Children fell asleep against an adult's side. The dark was not only rest, it was intimacy without performance. Today, we have flooded that room with electric light and glowing screens. We can keep working, performing, and comparing ourselves to strangers at any hour. The result is that many of us are starved of the very thing darkness used to provide: a boundary. Loving darkness may be a quiet rebellion against the always-on world. It is a way of saying, for a few minutes, no one can see me, and I do not have to produce. Maybe you have been told that preferring dark rooms means you are depressed, antisocial, or hiding. That judgment misses the point. There is a difference between retreating from life and choosing a moment of low stimulation. In fact, people who love darkness often report feeling more, not less, alive in it. They describe night walks where colors lose their sharpness but sounds become vivid. They describe sitting on a balcony in the dark and suddenly noticing the smell of rain, the pattern of streetlights, the weight of their own body. The dark does not erase the world. It changes which parts of the world you can finally perceive. It moves you from the center of attention to the edge of your own senses. Consider a night walk as a small experiment. In daylight, a city street is a parade of signs, faces, cars, and destinations. You are moving through it, but your eyes are doing most of the work, and your social brain is tracking who might see you, who might judge you, who might need something. At night, the same street narrows. The signs are dimmer. The faces are fewer. Your ears begin to take over. Footsteps, wind, a distant train, your own breathing. Your attention shifts from what you are supposed to notice to what is actually there. Many people describe this as feeling more present. That may sound contradictory. Present in the dark, but presence is not about how much you can see. It is about how many of your senses are finally allowed to report. Darkness often restores that balance. If you want proof, try this on yourself. Tonight before bed, lower the lights for 20 minutes. Do not meditate, do not journal, just sit in the dim room. For the first few minutes, your mind may race because the usual visual distractions are gone. That racing is not a sign that darkness is bad. It is the brain noticing the sudden quiet and trying to fill it. Then, usually within 10 or 20 minutes, something shifts. The inner monologue slows. The body exhales. The room, which looked empty, begins to feel inhabited by you. That transition from restlessness to relief is the signature of a brain finally processing what it has been carrying. It is one reason darkness has been used in religious rituals, therapy, and solitary retreats for centuries. There is also a chemical thread. As light decreases, the brain's pineal gland starts releasing melatonin, a hormone that helps time sleep. That is not the whole story of nyctophilia, but it is a reminder that the preference for darkness is not merely aesthetic. It is built into the body's clock. Long before you had a word for it, your nervous system associated dimness with the end of vigilance. Of course, in modern life that signal can be confused. A dark room with a bright phone in your hand sends mixed messages. The eyes receive both darkness and daylight bright pixels. The brain does not fully enter the low alert state. So a person who loves darkness may still struggle to relax if the dark is interrupted by screens. The love of dark, then, is not just about turning off the lamp. It is about giving the brain the full signal, not a half signal. But some people love darkness for the opposite reason, not to relax but to feel hidden enough to be honest. Midnight conversations often go deeper. Why? Because eye contact is softened, facial expressions are less visible, and the pressure to respond perfectly drops. People say things in the dark that they hesitate to say in daylight. That is not deception. It is safety. The dark can hold vulnerability because it lowers the cost of being seen. In that sense, nyctophilia can be a social preference as much as a sensory one. It creates a space where the face does not have to perform, and the voice can carry more truth. If you are someone who craves the dark, take the craving seriously. It is not a flaw. It may be your nervous system asking for a specific kind of restoration that bright, busy environments cannot provide. Create a small dark ritual that is not screen-based. It could be 10 minutes by a window after dusk, a warm drink in a dim kitchen, or walking a familiar block without headphones. Let the dark be the feature, not the background. And notice the difference between a healthy retreat and a hiding place. If darkness brings you back to yourself and makes you more able to face the next day, it is serving you. If it becomes a way to avoid every difficult thing for weeks, then it may be worth asking what you are avoiding. The darkness itself is not the problem. It is the relationship that matters. In the end, loving darkness is not strange. It is a kind of homecoming. Long ago, before electric light, before notifications, before the pressure to perform around the clock, the night was a room we all shared. It asked nothing. It revealed what the day had hidden, the sound of your own breath, the weight of a quiet room, the slow return of your own thoughts. To love darkness is not to reject life. It is to remember that life also happens in the pause, in the unlit hours, in the space where you do not have to be seen to know that you exist. So the next time you reach for the light switch and hesitate, let the dark stay a little longer. It may not be empty at all. It may be the only place quiet enough to hear yourself.